Have you ever asked yourself a simple question? When the day comes that you are no longer here, what will remain? The face you see in the mirror, whether it carries wrinkles or the glow of youth, will one day fade away. The breath you're taking right now is nothing more than a passing wisp of air. And when this body finally ceases to move, where will you go? Most people are afraid of death. But death is not the enemy. It's just a doorway. With every day that passes, we step closer to that door, whether we realize it or not. Some try to run from it, some choose to forget, and then there are those who embrace it with a calm smile on their lips. On the small island of Koh Samui in southern Thailand, beneath the noisy rhythms of tourism, beyond the sun-drenched beaches and moonlit nights, there's a modest little temple called Wat Kunaram. And inside that temple, for over half a century now, a monk has been sitting quietly in meditation, his eyes gently closed, his hands resting peacefully in his lap, still, silent, and no longer breathing. Yet his body has not decayed. He's still sitting there, as if he's simply lost in deep meditation, though he left this world a long time ago. His name was Luang Pho Daeng, but most people know him simply as the monk with the sunglasses. When you enter Wat Kunaram, you'll see him seated in a glass case, his face remarkably intact even after more than 50 years. On his eyes, a pair of dark sunglasses, placed there not for fashion, but to cover the empty sockets where his eyes once were, so that visitors won't be frightened by the reality of impermanence. But the real reason people stop and stare is not because they're looking at a mummified body. It's because of the quiet question that begins to stir in their hearts. Why would a monk choose to leave his body behind for the world to see? What is he trying to teach us by sitting there, on the thin line between life and death? We often live our lives as if we will never die. We cling to more things. We chase after more desires. We get angry, we suffer, and we forget how fleeting it all really is. But life is just a single breath. And when the last breath leaves our chest, everything else, status, possessions, appearances, will dissolve into emptiness. The mummified body of Luang Pho Daeng is not a spectacle for the curious. It's a living lesson in impermanence, a gentle reminder that death is not something to be feared. What's more tragic is living without knowing how to truly live. What's more painful is going through an entire lifetime without ever pausing to understand the value of each passing moment. Today, let's sit down together. Let's set aside the noise of the outside world for a while and listen to the story of a monk who chose a different way to leave this life, a way of leaving so that he could stay. The story of Luang Pho Daeng, the story of an incorruptible body, and perhaps the story of ourselves in this journey of learning how to let go and how to live each moment as if it were the last. Some life stories begin with grand events, moments that make headlines, stories that echo in history. But some lives begin quietly, like the soft curl of incense smoke rising in the air. The story of Luang Pho Daeng is one of those gentle stories. There is no miracle, no mythical tale of a child prodigy destined for enlightenment. He was simply a human being, ordinary just like the rest of us. Luang Pho Daeng was born in 1894 on the island of Koh Samui in Thailand. Back then, Koh Samui wasn't the tourist destination you know today. It was just a peaceful island with small fishing villages, thatched roof houses, and people living in tune with the sea and the land. Like many young Thai men, at the age of 20, Luang Pho Daeng ordained as a monk for the first time. In Thai tradition, this is a common rite of passage. Young men enter the monastery briefly to learn the teachings of the Buddha, to honor their parents, and to taste the quiet rhythm of monastic life. Luang Pho Daeng did the same. He spent time in the monastery, reciting scriptures, learning discipline, and getting acquainted with the stillness of temple life. But then, as life often unfolds, he returned to the world. He got married. He had children. He built a life, just like any other man in Koh Samui at the time. He worked hard, ran small businesses, navigated the ups and downs of daily life. During World War II, when the country was struggling, Luang Pho Daeng didn't only look after his family. He also reached out to help the community. He shared food with the hungry, gave shelter to those in need, and practiced compassion through simple acts of kindness. He lived a full life, knowing love, knowing hardship, knowing what it feels like to worry, and what it means to stand beside others in difficult times. But perhaps it was precisely these ordinary life experiences that planted the seed for something deeper. After years of living through joys and sorrows, after seeing the endless cycle of gain and loss, he began to ask himself, what is life really? Is it just chasing after food, money, and comfort, only to grow old, get sick, and die anyway? If everything ends in decay, why not spend the rest of my days searching for another path? At over 50 years old, an age when most people begin to settle down and prepare for retirement, Luang Pho Daeng chose a different direction. He ordained as a monk again. But this time, it wasn't just a tradition or a formality. It wasn't to fulfill a social role or family duty. This time it came from the depths of his heart. He returned to the humble temple of Wat Kunaram, a small monastery nestled quietly on Koh Samui. There were no grand ceremonies, no desire for fame or recognition. Just simple, silent days, meditating, chanting, keeping the precepts, and living close to the earth. He devoted himself to practicing samatha and vipassana meditation, two fundamental paths in Buddhist practice. Samatha to calm the mind, to steady it like a still lake on a windless day, and vipassana to see clearly, to recognize that all things are born and die, arise and fade, change and pass away. In those years, Luang Pho Daeng didn't seek to build a reputation. He didn't preach grand sermons or seek followers. He just quietly lived each day, eating little, sleeping little, gradually letting go of attachments. He owned nothing beyond the robes on his back and the alms bowl in his hands. He often told his disciples, if you live your life worrying only about this body, it's like spending your days caring for a house you know will collapse. More important than feeding the body is learning how to release your grasp, so that when death comes, you won't be afraid. And so, he prepared for a special kind of departure, a death that for him was not an end, but a final teaching for those left behind. The life of Luang Pho Daeng was complete in every sense. He was once a husband, a father, a provider for his family. And then he became a monk, choosing to renounce everything. He went from worrying about daily survival to sitting in stillness and mindfulness, from holding on to life's struggles to calmly letting them go, realizing at last that nothing truly belongs to us, not even this body. When we look at the life of Luang Pho Daeng, we don't just see a mummified monk. We see a human being who lived through the full cycle of existence: birth, aging, illness, death, loving, letting go, and finally accepting. Some may ask, why didn't he choose to pass away quietly? Why did he leave his body behind for the world to see? That answer is something we'll continue to explore in the next part of this story. When someone has lived fully, walked through joys and sorrows, understood the transient nature of all things, then death is no longer something to fear. For Luang Pho Daeng, death was not the end of the road. It was simply another step, a return to absolute stillness. In the last years of his life, as his body grew old and frail, he quietly prepared for his departure. There was no panic, no regret, no desperate grasping at life. He understood that everything sooner or later must pass. This body is just a cloak borrowed from the world. When the time comes, we must give it back. Before his passing, he gently told his disciples, if after I die, this body does not decay, keep it here, so that people may come and reflect on impermanence. But if it deteriorates, then cremate it or bury it as usual. There's no need to make it a special event. He wasn't wishing for a miracle. He didn't seek to become a legend. His only request was simple: keep it or not, it didn't matter. What mattered was this: Future generations should remember that everything in this world is moving toward change, decay, and transformation. In 1973, after putting all affairs in order, Luang Pho Daeng sat down in meditation, his legs folded in the lotus posture, his hands resting lightly in his lap, his spine straight like a tree rooted deeply in the earth. He stopped eating, he stopped drinking, and he allowed his mind to enter deep absorption. No one knows the exact moment when his breath left his body. They only know he left this world quietly, peacefully, without a single sigh, without a dramatic farewell. Just a soft letting go, like a leaf returning to the earth. When his disciples checked on him, his body remained still, but strangely intact. Day after day, month after month, the body did not decompose. There was no decay, no foul odor, no disintegration like one would expect from a normal human corpse. His disciples remembered his words, and they decided to honor his wish. They placed his body in a clear glass case, so that anyone who wished to could come and see. If you've never visited Wat Kunaram, it might be difficult to imagine what it feels like to stand before the incorruptible body of Luang Pho Daeng. There he is, still seated quietly in a small roadside temple. Sunlight filters through the windows, casting soft shadows on his thin, weathered face, a face that even after decades still holds a gentle, peaceful expression. His eyes are covered by a pair of dark sunglasses, not for style, not for mystery, but simply because over the years, the soft tissues of his eyes receded, leaving empty sockets. The sunglasses are there to prevent fear or discomfort, especially for children and visitors unaccustomed to confronting mortality directly. To this day, his body remains remarkably well preserved. In 2002, researchers conducted X-ray scans to examine the condition of his remains. The scans showed that his internal organs had shrunk, but they were still present. It was clear evidence that this was a real body, not a wax figure, not an artificial preservation. A genuine mummified monk sitting exactly as he had passed. During the examination, the researchers discovered something unusual. Inside his abdominal cavity and within the natural hollows of the body, they found small gecko eggs. This isn't magic. It's not a supernatural phenomenon. It's simply nature continuing its cycle. The glass case that holds his body is not completely sealed. Tiny lizards had found their way inside over the years, seeking shelter, laying eggs. Life goes on, even inside what seems to be a space of death. In a way, this is a perfect metaphor for impermanence. A person may leave, but life continues to flow, in ways both subtle and unexpected. When you stand before Luang Pho Daeng's body, you don't just see a corpse that refuses to rot. You see a mirror, a reflection of yourself, of your own mortality. You feel, perhaps for the first time, the weight of impermanence. And yet, you also feel a strange kind of peace. The Buddha once said, "This body is not me. I am not this body. Our physical form will grow old, get sick, and eventually die. But the mind, the awareness, can be free if we know how to let go." Luang Pho Daeng's incorruptible body is not a spectacle for curiosity. It is a mirror, a lesson, a quiet teaching that whispers, when you let go enough, death is just another doorway. He chose to leave in order to stay. He chose not to decay, so that future generations would remember not to cling too tightly to life, not to forget that every moment is fleeting. He sits there still, silent amid the stream of passing visitors. No sermons, no speeches, just stillness and a presence that teaches without words. And perhaps the most profound moment for those who visit him does not come from seeing a body that has defied decay. It comes from the quiet question that arises in the heart. If I were to die today, have I truly lived? There are stories that don't need to be written down in books. They don't need to be carved into stone or officially recorded in history. They are simply passed from one person to another, softly, like incense smoke drifting in the wind, whispering through generations, leaving a gentle trace in the heart. The life of Luang Pho Daeng is like that. There are no grand tales of miracles, no legends of supernatural feats. What people remember about him is a life that was, in many ways, very ordinary. But sometimes it is precisely in the ordinary that we find the deepest lessons. In the last years of his life, even as his body weakened, he still kept the habit of sitting outside the temple, quietly watching the sea breeze. Locals who walked past Wat Kunaram would often stop by, not to ask for blessings, but simply to sit near him, to hear a word or two, a small reminder about life. One day a young man came to visit him. His face was marked by worry lines, despite his youth. He bowed respectfully and spoke to the monk. "Master, I'm terrified of death. Every time I think about dying, I feel a chill down my spine. Lately, I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I imagine myself lying still, no longer breathing, people standing around looking down at me. I can't bear that thought." Luang Pho Daeng smiled. According to those who were there, his eyes were always kind, his gaze calm and deep. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he poured tea slowly, his hands steady, then softly asked, "What exactly are you afraid of?" The young man lowered his head, hesitant. "I'm afraid of losing everything. Afraid to leave this world. Afraid of being forgotten. Afraid of the pain of dying." The monk nodded, his voice warm. "Then tell me, are you truly living now, that you're so worried about dying?" The young man looked up, startled. Luang Pho Daeng continued, his tone still gentle as if speaking to the breeze. "Most people fear death because they've never truly lived. They spend their days chasing after things, clinging to desires, grasping at illusions. And when they finally think about death, they realize they've wasted so much time." He turned his gaze toward the distant sea. "You want to stop fearing death? It's simple. Think about it every day. Not to make yourself sad, but to remind yourself to cherish every breath you still have. When you become familiar with the idea that you will one day die, you will learn how to live fully. You'll be less angry, less greedy, less attached to trivial things." Then he closed his eyes as if meditating. Each day, just remind yourself quietly, "Today I am alive. Today I have another chance to do something kind." That's enough. You'll feel lighter. The young man left the temple that day with a different heart. He no longer searched for a way to escape death. Instead, he began learning how to live closer to life itself, closer to the people around him, closer to his own breath. That story is still told on Koh Samui, not as a grand Buddhist teaching, but simply as a small conversation, yet enough to shift someone's entire view of life and death. Sometimes the deepest lessons don't need to be complicated. They just need to be like breathing, natural, simple, continuous. In his final days, Luang Pho Daeng didn't leave behind dramatic farewells. He didn't lie in a sickbed. He didn't call his disciples together to lament the end of his body. People say he knew exactly when he would leave. This is a story passed down through the community. There are no written records, but those who lived close to him still remember it clearly. One afternoon, he called his disciples over. His voice was soft. "I feel the time has come. Birth and death, don't be troubled by them. My task is to sit quietly and go. Your task is to keep your heart still, just like that." He instructed them, "If this body does not decay after death, keep it here for people to reflect upon. Let them remember that death is not the end. But if the body deteriorates, just cremate or bury it like any ordinary person." Then he walked calmly into his small room. He sat down in meditation, legs crossed, back straight, eyes gently closed. No one knows the exact moment he left. They only know that he departed like someone drifting into a peaceful sleep, softly, without a sound. After his passing, the monks discovered that his body remained remarkably intact. Day after day, month after month, his form stayed seated, without decay, without the smell of death. Following his instructions, they placed his body in a glass case so that anyone who wished could come and see. At first, they left everything just as it was, but over time his eye sockets hollowed. Some visitors, especially children, felt frightened when they looked at him. So the temple decided to place a pair of dark sunglasses on his face, not to create a mysterious image, but simply to cover the emptiness of the eyes. It made it easier for people to approach, to soften the fear of death and replace it with quiet contemplation. Today, if you visit Koh Samui and stop by Wat Kunaram, you will find Luang Pho Daeng still sitting there, silent, but not absent, stillness radiating from his posture. The dark glasses resting over his eyes like a gentle barrier between life and death. Some visitors come out of curiosity, but once they stand before his body, most of them fall silent. No one speaks loudly. No one rushes away. They stand there, looking at his preserved form, but in reality, they are looking into themselves. They see the truth of aging, the certainty of death. They begin to question the things they cling to. Do I really need to hold on so tightly? In that moment, everyday worries seem smaller. Arguments, status, money, ambition, all fade a little in the face of impermanence. The Buddha taught us, contemplating death every day is not to bring sorrow, but to help us live more fully. Death is not the enemy. It is a doorway, a transition from this form to another. When we can let go of the body and loosen the grip of the mind, we find freedom, not in running away from life, but in living deeply within it, free from fear, free from attachment, just present with each moment that is here. When this story ends, you may return to your daily life, but perhaps a part of you will remain still for a while, like the stillness of sitting before the incorruptible monk. And in that pause, you might find yourself asking, if I were to die tomorrow, have I truly lived today?